Hi, and welcome to my channel again. Yeah, it's another tag video, although this one may be a little bit strange because I am doing it now in March 2022. So this is the book postscript tag, book postscript 2021 tag, and it is strange that I'm doing this in March 2022 because this one is sort of like it's kind of like a reflection type of a tag. Many booktubers have done this tag recently in December 2021 or January 2022 because it's very close to the end of the year for 2021. And so this is a tag in which we sort of just look back into our own reading experience in the past year, in this case 2021, and just sort of reflect on it in a way. So yeah, I am quite late to the party, but that's the usual thing. And on a positive side, maybe doing this video 3 months into the new year, within the distance between now and 2021 would probably provide me with a little bit of insight or additional perspective, hopefully or not, on my reading experience in 2021. So let's see if that is going to be true. So without further ado, let's start with this question. Oh, but before that, I just want to say that I was tagged by Marilyn Mendoza quite a while ago. She posted her video in the end of December 2021. So yeah, that is close to 3 months already. So let's start with the first question, and that would be, what is the longest book I read in 2021, and the book that I took the longest to finish? So the longest book that I read last year was I Know This Much Is True by Wally, which is a family drama about a pair of twin brothers, one of whom has schizophrenia. And this is a novel about how the other brother, who is also the narrator and the protagonist of this book, can't remember if he's actually the narrator of it or this book actually has a third person narrator. That part I can't remember, but he's definitely the protagonist of this book, and it sort of details on how he takes care, how he deals with his own issues, but also at the same time the issues that he's facing in taking care of his twin brother. So at the same time, we also see a little bit of their family background, and also a story about their grandfather who came from Italy, an immigrant from Italy to the US, and how he sort of built his own life in the US, and his personality, which has a little bit of a cyclic element when it is related to the current life of the brother and his schizophrenic twin. It's a really wonderful book, although I did take a while to finish reading that book because it was really long, but it was a nice reading experience. I remembered reading that book while taking walks outside in the morning. So I would say that book was reading that book sort of gave me a nice memory last year. I've never really done that kind of reading with other books because I don't know why. Maybe it was later I found it difficult to wake up early for me to just take a walk in the morning and then read a book while I was walking. So yeah, But that book was not the book that I took the longest to finish. The book that really took me a long time was The Man with the Compound Eyes by Ming-Yi. The book was originally written in Chinese, was translated into English by Darryl Sterk. So this book is a bit of a sci-fi environmental fiction. It sort of has two timelines. One is about a person of a native tribe, a fictional native tribe who lives on an island off the coast of Taiwan. It's a bit of an isolated island, and they have this sort of ritual in which this, the second born would be sacrificed to the sea, and this protagonist happens to be the second born, and he was sacrificed to the sea. And if he survives, he can certainly return to his home island. But typically the sons who are sacrificed, they don't really come back. And when he is sacrificed to the sea, he ends up encountering a trash island on which he sort of survives and subsists. And the other thread would all involve this woman who lives in Taiwan. She has depression because she's just lost her family. Her husband and also her child were killed in an accident while mountaineering, and so she was contemplating suicide. And so this story sort of follows the stories of these two characters and how their paths would eventually collide later in the book. But I felt that this book was sort of written in kind of a heavy-handed way, especially when it comes to how it wants to approach the topic of environmentalism and climate change and humans' actions on the environment. And sometimes it also feels a little bit like a non-fiction when it wants to talk about boring of mountains or fracking activities. It just felt kind of it felt like the flow of the story is being disrupted by those kinds of descriptions. So it was kind of distracting. The length of this book is actually about a quarter, or maybe at least a third of I Know This Much Is True, but it actually took me at least 4 months to finish this book because I just didn't really enjoy it. So next one would be a book I read in 2021 that was outside of my comfort zone, and I would say I have read a few. So I'm just going to give one example. One would be The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I really enjoyed that book. It's a science fiction, and it certainly has a lot of strange sci-fi words thrown in there that certainly scared me from reading that book the first time, which, well, the first attempt was actually like a few months prior to my second attempt. My second attempt was obviously successful, and I was able to power through the book, and I ended up really enjoying that book so much. It is about this man from he's a representative from a union of planets, and he represents this union to this new strange planet inhabited by asexual, I wouldn't say asexual, they are kind of like sexually neutral inhabitants, and they only become gendered beings a few days in a lunar cycle. So they are certainly quite different physiologically from a so-called regular human in this universe. And this man, he is certainly experiencing some kind of culture shock when he is on that planet, and on top of that, that planet has some really harsh climate environment. It's very wintry over there, and this human protagonist also have to deal with very different political environment, because he does in fact want to invite this planet to join this union of planet, the space UN, but if he would have to navigate the politics in these planets, which is very different from what he is used to. So this book is I found out that it's a book that is very much a very focused on human relationships and various facets of it, and I was actually quite surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, and I ended up giving this 5 stars because I just love it so much. It's so full of hearts, and it was certainly outside of my comfort zone, and after this I'm certainly going to try more by Ursula K. Le Guin. The next question would be, how many books did I reread? 0. Not a big rereader. The 4th question, favorite reread of 2021, that would be 0, none. Next one, 5, a book that I read for the first time that I look forward to rereading in the future. This book, this one is a bit difficult to say because I don't really have any plans to reread anything in the future, but I'm just gonna pick any of my favorite reads of 2021, and that would probably be Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, while this book is a very wonderful and fun book, and it was also from a genre that I am not really familiar with, and that would be science fiction, I'm also a little bit hesitant to reread this book because it's a very long book. It is about 800 something pages, or at least the edition that I have. But who knows, maybe in the future I would have a bit of a more, mental fortitude to read long books. Maybe I'll do that in the future, who knows. The next question, favorite single short story or novella that I read in 2021, and I would just kind of want to mention one short story written by a Malaysian author, and that would be by Ho Sok Fong, and it's called Lake Like a Mirror. It's from a collection of short stories called Lake Like a Mirror, which I sort of read last year, but I did not finish the collection. I plan to read the whole collection this year, so soon, hopefully. But I really like the titular story, which is a story about censorship in Malaysian education environment. So basically what happens in this book is that a teacher, she teaches in a private school, and one day she's teaching a poem to her class, an English poem by E. Cummings. And apparently this poem also have some touches upon the topics of LGBT subjects, and it sort of inspires one of her students to come out publicly in a online on a video, and while the student does face some repercussions on what he does in this book, the story focuses on what happens to the teacher who teaches this subject to her students. But I would say the way that this story ends, it does not take a predictable route. Rather, I feel like the way that it shows what happens afterwards feels like it sort of mimics, or not mimics, it sort of mirrors what could really happen in an actual situation, how it plays out, what happens to the teacher afterwards, or rather what does not happen to the teacher. I don't want to spoil a lot. Also, another thing that I really love about the ending is this very descriptive writing that the author uses in order to kind of shows us a bit of a metaphor or kind of like an analogy to what really goes on, especially when it comes to censorship in the education scenes in Malaysia. I think it's really beautifully written, and this descriptive writing uses a lot of elements from nature, which I find it's really beautiful, but at the same time it does have that kind of disconcerting element to it. So I'm certainly going to read more of Ho Sa-Fong's short stories after this. And once I finish with that book, and if I feel satisfied by the whole thing, I'll probably talk more about her other short stories. So yeah, next question. Mass Appeal. A book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. So for this question, I'm going to say I would recommend to everyone, literally everyone, and I feel that it's safe to recommend this book to most people. That would be Barbara Kingsolver's The Poisonwood Bible, which was the first five-star read for 2021. Whoa, this book is... I actually thought that I would love this book, and that proved to be true. It is a story about 5 women, a mom and her 4 daughters, what happens to them, and basically them narrating their stories when they have to move to Belgian Congo in the 1960s because they were being dragged over by their preacher father, who intends to become a preacher in one of the villages in the Belgian Congo. And this book is about cultural clashes. It's about differences in races and also colonialism. It is also about nature. But basically, this book is quite of a tragic story about how a family ends up becoming sort of undone by this decision to move to a completely new place that is quite politically volatile, and what happens to the family afterwards because of this action. I really love this book because the writing style feels very humanistic. It is it sympathizes with many of the characters. It humanizes them, and when you read this book, you can sort of feel the compassion in the writing, and you don't feel inclined to be very judgy when reading this book, and you also don't get this really judgy vibes on the narrators, from the narrators as well. So it's a really wonderful, comforting reading experience, despite the fact that the story itself has quite a bit of a tragic edge to it. I would definitely recommend this book to all of you guys if you are interested in reading this book. Of course, there are trigger warnings for this book. It has elements of racism, colonialism, war. There are definitely death, diseases, religious intolerances, just to name a few of the possible trigger warnings in this book. But for number 8, this book definitely has much more trigger warnings, which is why I would use it to answer this next question. Specialized appeal. Specialized appeal. A book I like but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. I love this book, but I don't think that it is for everyone out there because of how extreme the content can be, and that would be Eka Kurniawan's Beauty is a Wound. So this book was originally written in Indonesian, and it was translated into English by Annie Tucker. Now, while I find that this book's writing to be quite hilarious, it's often quite funny, it is also a book that also features quite a lot of I would say disturbing or even graphic scenes. This book has plenty of sexual assault. This book also has plenty of other things that would probably be quite disturbing to a lot of people. I'm talking about things like war, gory deaths, bloody deaths. It also has things like I've mentioned sexual assault. It also has things like bestiality, incest. It has portrayal of mental illnesses, human bodily fluids also mentioned in here. It definitely has racism. It has, I would say, various kinds of conflicts. Discrimination also happens in here. Pretty much a lot of things. It has plenty of abuse also, physical, sexual, verbal abuse, abuse towards children also happen in this book. So yeah, plenty of, I would say, rather disturbing things. This book is a historical fiction, and it centers around one woman named Dewi Ayu and also her 4 children. Now that I think about it, it's kind of interesting that the previous book that I mentioned is also about one woman and her 4 children, 4 daughters. Now, Beauty is a Wound is also about a woman and her 4 daughters, and how the lives of this woman and her 4 daughters are sort of influenced, affected by the things that are happening around them. Basically, all the colonization, all the wars, all the armed conflicts that really makes their lives really difficult for these women. But what I end up getting from these characters is that these women are really resilient despite all of the crazy nasty things that happen to them, but they sort of come out of all of these things in a rather inspiring, I wouldn't say inspiring, I would say in a way that makes you feel awe towards these characters, because they just show so much resilience in this book. So yeah, I really love this book, but again, because of all the things that I mentioned just now, I don't think that they would work for a lot of people out there. So yeah, beware on the on all of those trigger warnings if you are interested in trying out this book. Number 9, reflect on your year as a bookish content creator, whether it is through goals met, good or bad memories, favorite videos I made, etc. I would say that last year would be my 2nd year as a bookish content creator, and I would say one major thing that I realized or learned was rest is very essential. I think last year I took at least a few times in periods of breaks, and I realized that also after I took those breaks I felt much more energized or rejuvenated to create more, or rather more fresher bookish contents. And I feel that that is going to be my approach onwards. If I ever feel like I want to take more breaks, I would certainly going to do that. And I am going to, for the time being at least, I'm going to just follow my own personal schedule because I actually had the intention of, trying to make, or rather upload, one video per week, just to be consistent. But I also learned that because of the various things that was happening to me at that time, that was not possible. And whenever I forced myself to be consistent, I ended up feeling as if I was, booktubing was a chore, and that was not good for me. I don't think it is ever good to feel like your hobby is starting to become a chore. So in order to avoid that, I stopped for a while, and then after that I continued with whatever thing I want to do. And yeah, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stray away from the idea of being consistent. Sometimes I do feel like wanting to becoming more consistent with my uploading. In fact, I am thinking about possibly, just possibly this year, of starting or reviving Bookish avec moi, which is kind of like my weekly read sort of a video. But I don't know how that will turn out. We'll see. I'm just gonna have to experiment again this year. But yeah, I feel much more confident to actually just follow my own heart and my own rhythm, my own schedule in terms of what I want to pump out into my channel. So yeah, those are all the tag questions in this video. And for number 10, it calls for tagging some bookish content creators, and I think that I'm quite late in making this video, so I'm not sure who has not done this one yet. So I am going to just tag everyone out there who has not done this video. Anyone who comes across this video who wants to do this tag, feel free to do so. You're tagged by me. And that also includes everyone who are not content creators, who are not booktubers, but are just watchers, viewers of booktube videos, commenters, subscribers. Everyone out there, if you've seen this video, if you've reached this point, you are tagged. So that's it for this video. I actually planned for this video to be a bit shorter, but I became talkative again. Maybe it was because of this coffee that I just drank earlier. I just got this masala milk coffee. I have been looking for this coffee for a few weeks now. But I couldn't find it, and so I found it just now in the evening, and I had it. It was so good. So yeah, I'm gonna stop right now. So I'll see you again in a different video. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching, and bye.